Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about in the world of sports today with the Super Bowl, and Deshaun Watson has officially, according to sources, asked for a trade out of Houston. I'll also discuss the situation here, which is not exactly the greatest thing in the world, but I'll discuss all of that starting right now. Let's start the countdown. Here we go, baby. Let's go. It's time to start carving it up live with me, Bryson Carver, of course. Glad to have all you with us. Hopefully we can get some open discussion here, right over here in the comments on Facebook and YouTube, and of course on Twitter. So let's start with one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, Deshaun Watson, who has officially requested a trade out of Houston from the Texans. First of all, thank goodness. I've said since this past year, I believe Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the league. He's a special talent. Maybe he's not the greatest, or at least the most natural throw of the football necessarily, but didn't hold him back from leading the league in passing yards when, especially late in the year, he was missing basically his 3 best receivers. Because, of course, he was missing DeAndre Hopkins all year because Bill O'Brien made the most boneheaded trade I've ever seen in my life, trading a top 3 receiver, at least most confusing trade I've ever seen, at least in the NFL, trading a top 3 receiver for a beat-up running back and a second-round pick. I won't even try to, see what he was doing right there, but that's neither here nor there. Second of all, Houston has proven themselves to be inherently dysfunctional. Okay, it's that simple. Again, it rarely works when the coach, the head coach, I should say, is the head coach and the general manager. Because Bill O'Brien, I didn't like him as a head coach, but he wasn't close to as bad of a head coach as he was a general manager. He let Jadeveon Clowney go. Obviously, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins. He just let, sayonara. And so you look at these situations with the Texans, who have a guy who put up yards similar to those of Steve Young, Drew Brees, Joe Montana. The difference is the seasons where those guys put up the type of numbers that Deshaun Watson put up, those guys went to the Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson's team, 4-12. I've also said, if there was one strength on the Houston Texans, it was their receivers. Well, that obviously wasn't the case last year. The defense was terrible. Once again, you have a situation where the offensive line is pathetic, and Deshaun is just getting hit like crazy. Now, it's not as bad in Houston as it is in Cincinnati, but it's rough, to say the least. And so, yeah, Deshaun Watson should win out of Houston. And tomorrow I'm going to discuss Bradley Beal a little bit in the NBA. And anytime you're a star player and you're putting up the big numbers and you are literally putting your body on the line night in and night out, especially in the NFL, like you put your body on the line in the NBA, but the NFL, a coach of mine once told me, the NFL, or football in general, basketball's a contact sport. We hear football's a contact sport. No. Basketball's a contact sport. Football, it's a collision sport. So you are putting your body on the line every single play. And for Deshaun to do this, to put his body on the line every single play, he was told by the organization that he would get a say in who the next head coach would be, as he should. Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes last year asked him who he thought the Chiefs should draft in the first round. And Pat Mahomes said Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Pretty good rookie season, pretty good pick. And looks like he can develop into a pretty good, more of a receiving back, less of a power back. But Andy Reid said, hey, Pat, you make this pick. You're the best quarterback in the league. You make this pick. And Deshaun Watson, for him to be the only guy on the Houston Texans, because J.J. Watt was obviously, he's a future Hall of Famer, but he's obviously on the tail end of his career. He's still productive. I'd like to see him get traded as well to a contender, maybe Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and, go after a ring because, all he's done for Houston, I think they would be more than forgiving, to say the least, of what he's done there. But Deshaun's dealt with all these different things, and yet and still, he won them 2 division titles. He won a playoff game in which he had to come back and win against the Buffalo Bills. We see what Buffalo is now. They're pretty darn good. And all I got to say is this. You see the question on the bottom of the screen there. Where will Deshaun Watson be taking snaps in 2021? I don't know for certain. Now, according to Deshaun, he wants to go to the Jets. But I'll say this. If I'm Deshaun Watson, there's one destination to where I can go, and it'll be like, man, like I literally have a good chance, not just a chance, a good chance to win a Super Bowl my first year with this organization, and that would be the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers last year, the last time San Francisco was healthy, they went 13-3. They won the division. They crushed Aaron Rodgers twice, once in the regular season, and obviously they did in the NFC Championship game to get to the Super Bowl. The 49ers was 6 minutes away from a championship against Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs. As a matter of fact, the first 54 minutes of that game, Kansas City, the greatest offense in the world, scored 10 points through the first 54 minutes of the game. Now, of course, we all know they went on a 21-0 run from there to win the Super Bowl. But San Francisco proved they have great D-line, good corners, great linebackers, and they proved they can stop even the best offense in football, the Kansas City Chiefs, for at least majority of the game. And they did that with a quarterback I like. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't love him. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't like him like I do Deshaun Watson. Okay? Throw Jimmy Garoppolo. Throw most quarterbacks in Houston. Name me three. Name me three quarterbacks in the NFL that could have done in Houston this season, really for the past 4 seasons, what Deshaun Watson has done with the Texans. With an organization that doesn't give him a say in anything. That's part of the reason Brady left New England, right? Is that after a while, he's like, I'm the greatest quarterback ever. Why don't you give me a say? And, they're like, oh, it's a system. It's a system. It's you got to work this way. And so Tom's like, I'm out. He goes to Tampa Bay. They're in the Super Bowl. That's a different discussion for the next topic, really. But we've transitioned to a time in sports, and I truly believe this was started by LeBron, where the power is in the hands of the athlete. It started in the NBA, and it's starting to transition to the NFL. Like we've seen the past few years, like, for example, Anthony Davis with the New Orleans Pelicans. Great player, was just with a bad franchise. And he's like, man, I'm putting up these numbers, and I even carried us to the playoffs twice. We even swept the playoff series, and in the next series, I played amazing against Golden State, and we still got beaten 5 games. And he's like, I want out. I want to compete for a championship. I want to go with LeBron to have an opportunity to showcase how great I truly am. And what do you know? AD gets traded to the Lakers with way more pressure, by the way, in LA than he had in New Orleans, and they win the championship. And so I look at a guy in Deshaun Watson, I'm like, what he did in Houston, can you imagine if he has Kyle Shanahan? He has a great running game, really good receivers, okay, a great tight end, the second best tight end in the entire NFL in George Kittle, a great defense to back him up, a division which is looking a little shaky right now. I mean, what are we going to get from Arizona next year? I love Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray's the real deal. But everywhere else, don't have a great running game. Defense is up and down. Is Cliff Kingsbury really the long-term coach with the Cardinals? You look at the Rams, okay, they're out here taking shots at Jared Goff. The general manager, Les Snead, said Jared Goff, when he was asked by reporters if Jared Goff is their franchise quarterback, if he's their future quarterback, and he said, he looked at the calendar, this was Monday, and he said, yeah, Jared Goff is our quarterback today. Okay, so the Rams don't have a long-term answer, it appears, right now at quarterback. And then Seattle, I think Russell Wilson is the second best quarterback in football. He's probably, dropped to third behind Aaron Rodgers, but he's top 3. I don't think anybody would debate Russell Wilson as a top 3 quarterback in the league. Everywhere else in Seattle, man, the receivers, DK Metcalf really tailed off at the end of the season. The defense looked great down the stretch, but running game, which we thought was a strength of Seattle's, it tailed off at the end of the season. which is the second straight year it's done that. And so I look at it, and San Francisco's problem last year, they weren't healthy. They had injuries all over the place. So yeah, they're gonna have issues. Where you're starting Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard with a bunch of backups, you're probably not going to go win the Super Bowl. And so if you can get Deshaun Watson in there with a great offensive coach, great running game, great tight end, great defense. And by the way, something else, and this is, to me, this is why I think I know the Super Bowl is going to be played. Let's see, today's January 28th. So let's see, 10 days from now. Yeah, 10 days from now, the Super Bowl is going to be played. But I look at it and I say, San Francisco's the favorites for 2020 or 2021, I should say. They are, because they're going to play a last place schedule. And we've seen teams in the past, have bad season because they just had, bad issues with injuries. I always say, like, one of my rules is, if a good team misses the playoffs or they're like in a really good division and then they have injuries. They have just injuries all over the place. It's, they're snake bit. And you're in a good division, you end up coming in last place in your division, which the 49ers did this year in the NFC West. You have an opportunity next year. You're playing an easy schedule, last place schedule. You have an opportunity to really stack up some wins and maybe get home field advantage in the playoffs. And San Francisco has a golden opportunity to do that. And I think John Lynch, the general manager, put all your chips on the, give everything you got to try and get Deshaun Watson. If as long as you don't have to trade, there's a few guys, I wouldn't trade. Kittle, Nick Bosa, who's the other, D Ford. Like, there's certain guys, like, they're untouchables. I'm not trading them. But everybody else, hey, anything for Deshaun Watson. He's a great quarterback. He's a great kid. And the fact that, he had to deal with the garbage that he had to in Houston, props to him for sticking through it. And if he goes to San Francisco, I'm going to call it right now. I'm going to look right in that camera right there. The 49ers, if they trade for Deshaun Watson, of course, this is all barring injury. We always make our predictions barring injury. If Deshaun Watson gets traded to the San Francisco 49ers with that great offensive coach, great running game, great tight end, great defense, and with Deshaun Watson, who's an unbelievable playmaker at the quarterback position, the 49ers will be in the Super Bowl next year. Guarantee it, if they trade for him. Now, the Jets isn't, the Jets would be like the last team, because I liked the hire of Robert Saleh. I thought he should have gotten the Cleveland job last year. Although, Kevin Stefanski got it and did a heck of a job. But I like the hire of Saleh everywhere else. The Jets are, similar to Houston, inherently dysfunctional. And so he'd essentially be going to the exact same situation that he's with in Houston, just with a better coach, which helps. But how much of an upgrade are you really getting? And so I'm just telling you, mark my words, if Deshaun Watson gets traded to the 49ers, book it. They're going to the Super Bowl next year. And that's an unloaded NFC too. So there's been a discussion going on right now, and I love it. Is this the greatest quarterback matchup we've ever seen in a Super Bowl? And so I was like, well, it's the best I can think of. But let me look back and make sure. Okay, let me look at, because we've had some great quarterback matchups in Super Bowls, especially in the past 10, 15 years or so. And so I looked at all this, and here it is. Here's my top 10 quarterback matchups in Super Bowl history. So you've got, obviously, I think Brady Mahomes is number one. So you got Brady, Warner down there. And again, here's my criteria from it. It's not necessarily what was the best game. It's not, because there's some blowouts in there. Like, the 49ers, you see where I have Montana versus Elway at number 2 in Super Bowl 24. San Francisco destroyed Denver in that game. It wasn't even a contest. You look at, let's see, Wilson versus Brady. Yeah, that was over in about 5 minutes. Denver really struggled that game. But I'm looking down the list, and my criteria is, overall over the course of their career. Because if you look at this list, every single one of these guys are either Hall of Famers or they're going to be. Russell Wilson's going to be a Hall of Famer. Okay. Patrick Mahomes is, if he keeps doing this, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Big Ben's obviously going to be a Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers, so on and so forth. And of course, Brady, as he's the greatest ever. But my criteria is who's the best quarterback, not team, not what was the best game, best quarterback. And I look at this and I'm like, you got the greatest ever in Tom Brady. And you say, well, all time Mahomes hasn't passed guys like Kurt Warner quite yet. Kurt Warner was a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer. But Mahomes is off to the greatest three-season start, I should say, in NFL history, bar none. Because imagine if the Kansas City Chiefs win this game on Sunday, next Sunday, his first 3 seasons, the first year he'll have thrown 50 touchdowns, won the MVP, and come to within a coin toss of going to the Super Bowl. The second year, he wins 2 straight home games against the Titans, it was Houston first. The Texans and the Titans, comes back in the fourth quarter against a great 49ers defense and wins the Super Bowl. And so this year he has an opportunity to beat Tom freaking Brady in the Super Bowl. Man, what would that do? We talk about the legend of Patrick Mahomes. What would that do for his legacy? You kidding me? You see what Brady's doing right now? And so I'm just telling you, if Pat Mahomes can win this game, and if he's able to possibly win next year's Super Bowl, I'm getting kind of uncomfortable if you're Tom Brady. If I'm Tom Brady, because at that point Brady would have 6 rings, Mahomes would have 3 in 4 years. Okay, so he would be threatening Tom, no question about it. And I look at it and has there ever been a more dynamic quarterback matchup ever? More hyped up? I put Montana Elway at 2 because I think Montana is definitely the second greatest ever. I think Brady passed him a few years ago after that win against the Falcons in that Super Bowl. But Brady passed Montana that game. I think Elway's somewhere in the top 5. I'd probably put him right at number 5. Because my top 3, I'm very consistent in my top 3. Brady's the GOAT. Montana's 2. Peyton Manning's 3. Okay? And so I probably put Elway somewhere around 3 or 4 or 5. Then you get Montana, Marino. Marino's right there. He's probably the 6th greatest quarterback of all time. Breeze Manning. Breeze is probably the 8th greatest ever. Manning is obviously the 3rd, as I said. Elway, Favre. Now, I don't think Brett Favre's a top 10 quarterback. He turned the ball over way too much. Obviously, he was not good whatsoever in the playoffs. You could say, well, Marino doesn't have a ring. Favre does. Switch Brett Favre and Dan Marino's careers. You put Dan Marino on the Packers with Mike Holmgren and those great receivers, and put Brett Favre on the Dolphins. Okay, you're gonna get a different career with both those guys. Not to diminish Brett Favre's greatness, but I don't think he's top 10. Now, obviously, Elway is. Bradshaw, Staubach. I think Staubach was a top 10 quarterback. He would probably be 9 or 10 for me. Bradshaw, he's in the top 20. You got Brady Wilson. Are we sure Russell Wilson isn't going to retire and be one of the 20 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game? Okay, obviously Brady's the GOAT. Wilson Manning. Okay, same thing. Peyton Manning's 3. Russell Wilson's on pace to be a top 20 quarterback. You got Rodgers. I know that's kind of tiny. Number 9. Rodgers and Big Ben. Well, Big Ben's going to be a top 20, 25 quarterback ever. Rodgers is going to be a top 10 quarterback ever. And then Brady Warner. Warner's a top 25 quarterback, and Brady's obviously the GOAT. And so I just look at all this and I say, man, we've never really gotten this dynamic. It's pretty incredible. Sorry, I broke up there. It's pretty incredible what we're seeing from these two guys, because you got a guy in Pat Mahomes who's obviously the best in the world right now. You got a guy in Brady who's the GOAT, is playing in his 10th Super Bowl. And, again, Mahomes is a coin toss away his MVP year in 2018 from going to 3 straight Super Bowls. This is as good as he gets. I don't know how you could make an argument for one of the two, but at the rate Patrick Mahomes is playing at right now, I challenge you to name the quarterback who's gotten off to a better start. Seriously. And what is he, 25? we see Brady playing at 43. Breeze played to 42. Phillip Rivers almost to 40. Phillip Rivers almost played to 40 years old, okay? And Pat Mahomes is way more athletic than Phillip Rivers. It's a different game nowadays. The rules are different. You can't hit Pat Mahomes now like you could hit Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees or Tom Brady 10 years ago. Heck, 5 years ago. The rules have changed, benefiting offenses. This is going to be awesome, man. I can't wait for it. This is going to be one of the great Super Bowls we've ever seen. No question about it. So let's go back to a quarterback that lost on Sunday. A guy who I'm a big fan of as a quarterback talent, Aaron Rodgers. Now, I think Aaron Rodgers is the MVP this year. He's made some quotes in the past that I haven't necessarily been the biggest fan of. Throwing coaches under the bus, throwing teammates under the bus here and there. But for the most part, I wouldn't say he's like a natural born leader like a Brady or a Breeze or Mahomes or even Josh Allen. Josh Allen, you see some of those mic'd ups. Josh Allen's a heck of a leader. Rodgers isn't a natural born leader. But he floated the idea Sunday afternoon about possibly leaving Green Bay. He's saying, hey, people here, our future is in question, including myself. I'm like, this is not the first time Aaron said this in the last year. And Aaron conceded after the Packers traded up in the first round to pick Jordan Love. In a sense, basically picking their quarterback of the future while they still have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron basically went on podcasts. He went on radio shows, on TV, and basically said, hey, I'm probably not going to finish my career in Green Bay. And he even joked to, I think it was Kyle Brandt on a podcast. He said, hey, I may go play for the Chicago Bears. And it's like, whoa, what? I mean, quarterbacks don't joke. I mean, we've had quarterbacks play with rival teams. Obviously the most notable, Brett Favre, went to the Vikings and had arguably the best year of his career at age 40. And you don't hear quarterbacks joke about, you don't hear Drew Brees say, hey, you know what? I may go play for the Atlanta Falcons. If Peyton Manning, when he was with the Colts, never said, you know what? I'm going to go play for Jacksonville. Brady never said, I'm going to go to Buffalo or the Jets. You don't hear that. Pat Mahomes, that's a bad example. Pat Mahomes is young. Let's say Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers never joked, I'm going to go play for the Raiders or the Broncos. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some interview from like 2010, I don't know, where they were joking like, hey, I may go play somewhere else. But this is the first time I've ever heard a quarterback whose future is, I don't want to say in doubt. I definitely don't want to say in question, but yeah, little teetery, little, not completely stable long-term. And Aaron's 37, but you see how quarterbacks, like I said, are playing at this age with nutrition, with the way rules benefit offenses nowadays. And so I think Aaron's gone. As a matter of fact, I think Aaron should leave. And here's why. And I'll defend Aaron Rodgers. For 10 years, for 10, 11 years, the Green Bay Packers have been in championship contention. Right? People have gone into the season saying Packers are going to get to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about in the Aaron Rodgers era. Okay, 2010, obviously, they're a wild card team. They were 8-6 in the regular season going into Week 16. They won their last 2 games, got in the playoffs. They won their wild card game in Philly, went on the divisional road and shocked Atlanta, went on the road in the NFC Championship game, beat their rivals, the Chicago Bears, got to the Super Bowl, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to hoist the Lombardi Trophy, named after, obviously, their legendary coach. Okay. Packers had a top 10 defense that year. Okay. Now remember that. The Packers in 2010, when they won the Super Bowl, had a top 10 defense. They had some ballers, man, too. Charles Woodson and Clay Matthews. I mean, they had some dudes on that defense. 2011, Packers defense is awful. Despite that, the Packers go 15-1, and Rodgers is the MVP. But they lost to the New York Giants in part due to Aaron's inability to get the ball down the field. He had some turnovers in that game. And the defense gave up a Hail Mary to Eli Manning. And I think it was Mario Manningham who caught that one in the end zone, if I remember correctly. I think it was Manningham. No, it was Hakeem Hicks. It was Hicks who caught that, number 88 for the Giants. And so the Packers went home. 2012, they're playing the 49ers on the road. Colin Kaepernick runs all over. He ran for like 150 yards or something. It's like the record for a quarterback in a playoff game. Packers defense is awful. Season comes to an end. They play the 49ers again the next year. The Packers do. They play the 49ers again at home. 49ers beat them. The next year, Aaron's playing with a calf that's torn probably because he had it stepped on by Ndamukong Suh in the last game of the regular season. He's limping all around against the Cowboys. He beats them. Then he goes to Seattle. It's a road game in Seattle. And the defense is playing out of their minds for 55 minutes. And then over the remainder, the last 2 minutes of regulation and overtime, they gave up 15 points. They gave up a touchdown to Russell Wilson. They gave up an inexcusable onside kick. It wasn't like as bad as like the Atlanta game against Dallas, but it was bad. I mean, it went right through the tight end's mitts. A guy named Chris Matthews, no, not that Chris Matthews, another Chris Matthews, grabbed the onside kick. Seattle got it, went right down, scored the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion, took a 3-point lead. Rodgers drove him down, tied the game with a field goal. Seattle won in overtime. Game over. Seahawks going to the Super Bowl. Packers going home. Another game that the defense lost. The next year, against the Arizona Cardinals, divisional round, Rodgers pulls off, this is the second Hail Mary of the season, by the way. He pulls off one of the greatest throws I've ever seen. He's rolling out to his left. Arizona brings a blitz. It's the last play of regulation. Packers are down 7. They're like at midfield. Arizona brings a rusher, an extra pass rusher. They send a blitz on a Hail Mary, which I don't know what they were thinking there, but Rodgers rolls out to his left, turns his body, and just, flings it as far as he can down the field. His body falling to the ground. He's able to complete it. Touchdown. Game goes to overtime, and the Cardinals give up a 70-yard plus play to Larry Fitzgerald on the very first play of overtime. 2 plays later, Arizona runs a shovel pass to Larry Fitzgerald. Scores a touchdown, game over. Okay, 2016, I can't defend Aaron on this one. Unbelievable season. Packers defense was bad against Atlanta, but so was Aaron Rodgers. That was just a bad game all the way around. Okay, 2017, missed the playoffs because he got hurt. 2018, not a good year for Aaron Rodgers. 2019, Packers aren't great. Matter of fact, they're terrible against San Francisco. Defense is off. Aaron is really off. They lose. Okay. Now, yesterday against the Bucs, couldn't get a stop when they absolutely had to. I'm sorry. And also, Aaron's never had an elite coach. I know people said for years, like, switch Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers has the same amount of rings. I don't think that's the case because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is Tom Brady. And I don't think Belichick, and we've seen that this year, I don't think Belichick had near the impact people thought he did. That was like 80, 85% Brady. Yes, I'm going to go that high. Because New England was let's say terrible. They were average this year. They were 7-9. Okay. Cam Newton, really good quarterback, looked bad. Tom Brady, now that he actually had, weapons, looks like the old Tom Brady. Threw 40 touchdowns at the age of 43. The Bucs are a game away from the Super Bowl. Brady's a game away from his 7th ring. But Aaron Rodgers, in his career, he had Mike McCarthy. Okay, Mike McCarthy got fired, goes to Dallas. And after Dak Prescott gets injured in the 5th game of the season, how the Cowboys look? Not so good, huh? It's pretty bad. In the games, Aaron got hurt in Green Bay when Mike McCarthy was the head coach. They looked terrible. When Aaron would come back, they looked like a Super Bowl contender. Think that's a coincidence? I don't think so. And so I just look at this and I say, man. And plus, Aaron is in Green Bay, which is a team that is not exactly attractive, I should say, to free agents. Guys don't want to go, and this is not a shot at Green Bay or or the people of Wisconsin whatsoever. But free agents don't want to go to a small town where it is freezing to play. They want to go to, Miami, Los Angeles, Dallas, Arizona has gotten some good free agents. Pittsburgh has a winning culture. Not just due to their quarterback, unlike the Packers, who it's Aaron Rodgers or bust. So I'm telling you, a team, I suggested Deshaun Watson should want to go to the 49ers. I'll tell you a team that I think would suit Aaron very well, and that's the Los Angeles Rams. Because it looks like they may or may not be moving off of Jared Goff. We'll have to see how that plays out. But if you told a Rams fan today, if you're a Rams fan right now, and I said, hey, Jared Goff, let me think of another player, Cam Akers, and Robert Woods for Aaron Rodgers, would you take it? You'd be an idiot not to take that. It's Aaron Rodgers. You got Sean McVay. Great defense. We saw Aaron Rodgers take Devontae Adams out of the equation. We saw Aaron Rodgers make some receivers look like Pro Bowlers. Al Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Robert Tonyan came out of nowhere and was playing great. Helps that you have Aaron Rodgers. So, not to say the Rams or the Packers have nobodies, but Aaron can make just about everybody work. So I would like to see him leave Green Bay. I think it would actually work out. I really do. So that's my thoughts on the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. Now, a little more serious topic right now. We have a situation in the NFL where there is a player, now a former player with the Seattle Seahawks, offensive lineman by the name of Chad Wheeler, who is no longer with the team, thankfully, after he was arrested for domestic violence. And for those of you that have not heard the story, and I'm sorry, I don't like calling people out, or it's not a specific person, but it's just a group. The media has done a terrible job of covering the story. It's like they've not even brought it up. I mean, we've seen the past domestic violence issues come up, and it's like the biggest NFL news for like 2 weeks, and this one's like barely been brought up. I don't know why. Maybe is it because we saw the thing with Kareem Hunt a few years ago, right? When he got released by the Kansas City Chiefs after the video came out with him. Ray Rice was obviously released by the Ravens after that incident happened. Greg Hardy. Is it because those are star players? Man, I hope that's not the case. Because, Chad Wheeler is basically a backup offensive lineman. And, because most football fans, including myself, didn't know who Chad Wheeler was before a couple days ago. Was that the reason they didn't report it? I hope not. But all I got to say is the media has not done a good job whatsoever of covering the story. They haven't mentioned it like they have previous stories. And so basically the way it goes down is this guy's girlfriend. He's ordering her to bow down to him. She refuses. And so he chokes her and does God knows what else. And basically, it was attempted murder. He tried to kill her because, according to her, when he walked back in the room, she, she was laying there. I don't want to say I don't know the condition, but it did not look good whatsoever. And he said, "Oh, you're not dead." Like he was surprised, like he was trying to kill her. And then you hear some of the things that came out after. It's a sickening situation with Chad Wheeler. And all I gotta say is this: look, this man should never play in the National Football League again. Because like when you look up the story, like the NFL has a real opportunity here. Now, this incident alone, just by itself, without the NFL doing a thing, will probably cost Chad Wheeler the rest of his career. It did with Ray Rice, right? And Ray Rice is a much better running back than Chad Wheeler is an offensive lineman, right? Ray Rice was a starter. But The NFL has a real opportunity, and I think they botched this. Now, listen, I think Tyreek Hill is a fantastic receiver. He is the fastest NFL player I've ever seen. He and Deshaun Jackson are the fastest players I've ever seen. I didn't get to see Deion Sanders. But the story came out a couple of years ago where Tyreek Hill was being investigated for child abuse. And again, I don't know what ended up happening with that situation. But everybody was saying at the time, and I agree, like, if it's true, if he did the things that the report said he did, then he should never be allowed to play in the league again. And it seems like we've had situations like this, like Greg Hardy. We saw what he did, and he still got a second chance. And you know me, I'm all about second chances. But if you would have it in you to put your hands on another woman or another human being in general, but especially a woman, I can't sign you. I can't. There's only so far second chances can go. If you do something that bad, man, that's hard. Like that's. I couldn't do it. If you were a Pro Bowler, if you were a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, I would still be like, man, I can't sign you. I can't sign you. It's bad for the locker room. It's bad for. I don't want to go so far as to say it's like, necessarily bad morally. It might be, probably is. It's bad for the locker room. It's bad for business. It's just bad. It's bad. It'd be a bad PR stunt, PR move. There's no, I mean, if you read the story, go online and read what Chad Wheeler did to his girlfriend. It's disgusting. And so the NFL, again, I doubt he'll ever play it down in the NFL again. I doubt he'll ever make another penny in the NFL. But they have an opportunity to say, okay, players, if you do this, if you do what this guy did, consider your NFL career complete. It's over. You can't have this in the league. You can't have this anywhere. And look, majority of NFL players are phenomenal dudes. I mean, you see like the Walter Payton Man of the Year award every year. I mean, you see what some of these guys do. Just to bring a couple names, J.J. Watt, what he did for Houston, Russell Wilson, what he does in Seattle, and countless other players I don't even have time to get into. Majority of NFL players are amazing people. But this guy I could never sign him. I could never, if I were a general manager, owner, coach, I could never, ever sign a guy to my roster like this. Ever. It's bad all the way around. The NFL has to address this. This is an issue that the NFL quite famously has not been good with. And I think Roger Goodell to me is the second best commissioner in American sports. I think Adam Silver is just, unbelievable. But Roger Goodell's number two. I give Roger Goodell a tremendous amount of credit that the NFL got through the entire regular season without having to pause the season. Now, they had to reschedule games and stuff, but that's COVID. Stuff gets rescheduled during a pandemic. But the fact that they didn't have to stop the season, and now we got one more game of the year to complete a COVID, a COVID season in the NFL. Credit to Roger Goodell, credit to the NFL for pulling it off. But domestic violence has been an issue that the NFL has totally dropped the ball on completely. We saw with, I'll give you an example. For example, John Brown. John Brown was a kicker in the NFL. He's not in the league anymore, but he was with the New York Giants. And it was proven he did commit domestic violence against his wife. He was suspended a single game. Okay. Ezekiel Elliott, running back, was accused by his ex-girlfriend of domestic violence. Nothing was found. Absolutely, there was not a trace of evidence. By the way, his ex-girlfriend wouldn't even show up at the hearings. All this stuff, like they did not find a trace. He got suspended 6 games. Greg Hardy, 4 games. Zeke, 6 games. Greg Hardy, 1,000% without a doubt. We literally have the evidence, the pictures, everything. Zeke, not an ounce of evidence. Zeke got 6 games. Not DeMarcus Lawrence. Greg Hardy got 4 games, and Josh Brown, got 1 game. this is not the issue. This NFL has an opportunity right here to make a statement and say, if it's proven that you did to your significant other what Chad Wheeler did to or anybody, not just significant, if you do to anybody what Chad Wheeler did to his girlfriend, we're not going to employ you in the NFL. If you're an owner, we are not going to, and obviously the NFL can't control who gets hired, but they can remove you. I mean, we've seen how they've done with guys like Josh Gordon, Martavius Bryant, and guys like Randy Gregory. We've seen what they've done. So they have the power to do this. They have the power to make this happen. And so this is an issue they have totally dropped the ball in for a while now, and they have an opportunity to make a statement. And if it's proven, it sure looks like this guy did what he did to his girlfriend, and God bless her. Thank God she's alive. Thank God she's alive. That's the most important thing of anything, that she is still alive and hopefully recovers not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and just wishing her the absolute best. And any survivor of domestic violence, man, God bless y'all. But NFL has to do something about this, make a statement. So shifting to college football, final topic of the day. This is not fun for me. This is not fun. I'm a Tennessee fan. Diehard Tennessee fan. But I'm a rare Tennessee fan that is a realist. That is objective. Tennessee basketball is unbelievable. We lost a couple games last week, got on track with the win against Mississippi State. Whatever. We're ranked. Rick Barnes is an unbelievable coach. We recruit amazing. Just real quick about Tennessee basketball. Jaden Springer. Remember that name, Jaden Springer. He's gonna be a superstar. But Tennessee football, 2008, 5-7. They fired Philip Fulmer, who had guided them to a national championship game and won. He won the very first BCS national championship game. Was a great recruiter. Won multiple SEC championship games. Tennessee, save for 2 or 3 years, were always in the running to win the SEC. And they fired him after one bad year. The fans and the Knoxville media is like, fire Philip Fulmer. Okay, they fired him. You got Lane Kiffin. Okay, I have my issues with Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach. He's a little quirky. He had all kinds of problems in Alabama. Saban couldn't stand him. So we see Saban yelling at assistants, but he literally could not stand Lane Kiffin. So much so, he literally fired him days before Alabama's national championship game, the second time they played Clemson in 2017, and I believe it cost them the game. They ended up losing at the end. Alabama's offense just wasn't good. Tennessee hires Lane Kiffin, so it's like, okay, all right, it's Lane Kiffin. Okay, he leaves after 1 year to go to USC. They hired Derek Dooley. More than anything because his dad was an all-time great coach at Georgia. Derek Dooley was awful, was terrible, couldn't recruit, couldn't even compete with Florida. Forget Alabama. Alabama, listen, if you're a Tennessee fan watching this, there's no shame whatsoever in not being able to compete with Alabama for 12 years. Because newsflash, almost nobody has. Okay, so it's almost nobody has. Auburn's had their moments. Obviously, Clemson has. Notre Dame's gotten blown out twice in the last decade by Alabama. Hardly anybody competes with this team. But Tennessee, they went on to hire Butch Jones, who was a good recruiter, actually a great recruiter, but couldn't develop talent. And so after the worst year in Tennessee program history in 2017, went winless in the SEC, they fire him. And so it's like, okay, Tennessee's in a coaching search. So was Florida. I thought it was highly unlikely we'd get him because he probably was going to go back to Florida because he was, there under Urban Meyer. He was Tim Tebow's offensive coordinator and went to Mississippi State and was just great there. Helped develop my favorite player in the NFL, Dak Prescott, into what he ended up becoming with the Cowboys. But I was like, okay, Dan Mullen is off the table. And so Tennessee hires a guy in Greg Schiano. And the fans revolt. They don't like it. They don't like Greg Schiano. And so the program caves. And no Greg Schiano. Over the next month, they're straight up begging guys. They're Mike Gundy and Mike Leach at Washington State, where he was at the time. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find a coach that would say yes. And finally, at the end of December, first part of December, beginning of December, they hired Jeremy Pruitt. And I wish I had a podcast at the time, because I'm telling you, I hated the hire of Jeremy Pruitt. And everybody's like, oh, he's a Saban assistant. Look at what Kirby Smart did. Kirby Smart's a great coach. I'll concede that. He has never beaten Nick Saban. Matter of fact, Nick Saban's assistants have never beaten him. And I see this time and time and time and time again. We see this in the NFL with teams hiring Belichick assistants. Is when you hire a guy who is under a great coach in the NFL under Belichick, in college football under Nick Saban, you expect, hey, he's going to take Alabama with him or New England with him, and we're going to build a dynasty in 5 years. No, you can't duplicate the greatest ever at something. You could be great. You can't. Absolutely. You can't duplicate the greatest. And it was once again a situation. And by the way, Greg Schiano at Rutgers was really good. Rutgers is a terrible football program. He beat Michigan State. Michigan State's a good football program. Rutgers beat them last year. Okay? They hired Jeremy Pruitt, hated the hire. First year, Tennessee missed a bowl game. Second year, Tennessee got hot. Not before, by the way, losing to Georgia State. Yeah, who's Georgia State? Choking against BYU. But nevertheless, Tennessee got in a run late in the year. Won a close bowl game against Indiana. And everybody's like, oh, Tennessee's back. And I'm like, no, they're not. Jeremy Pruitt, best case scenario. Best case scenario is the third best coach in his division. It's Mullen, Smart. You can interchange those two. I think Dan Mullen's the best. I put Kirby Smart number 2. And I think Mark Stoops at Kentucky is a much better coach than Jeremy Pruitt. Given what Mark Stoops at Kentucky, not a football school, although their basketball's been trashed this year, but not a football school. You're not going to get the recruits that the cream of the crop in the SEC is going to get. And yet, a few years ago, he beat Penn State in a bowl game. Give credit where credit's due right there. And so, this year, they fired Jeremy Pruitt. And it happens because we have an issue where there's a recruiting violation. And it's not just any old recruiting violation where the under the table, giving $100,000. They're still investigating Duke for allegedly giving Zion $500,000. Which, by the way, I totally believe college athletes should get paid, but that's a different story for another day. Tennessee put checks in McDonald's bags. They gave their recruits, guys they're recruiting, bag of McDonald's fast food with money in it. What? And still, they won 3 games. 3 games. 3-7. One of those ones against Vanderbilt, so that doesn't count. Vanderbilt, doesn't even belong in the SEC in football. Although one could argue Tennessee doesn't. And it goes to what I've said, is every coach who's gotten hired or fired by Tennessee because of the fans. And I'm a Tennessee fan. Okay? But when you look at this program of the last decade and some change, last 10, 12 years, 13 years, they cave to the fans. Who the fans wants to hire? Okay, we'll go with him. Oh, he's a Saban assistant? Okay, we'll get him. Derek Dooley. Jeremy Pruitt. Oh, Butch Jones is the next hot coach at Cincinnati. Oh, okay, we'll get him. And it's another situation, the fans. And we see, I saw a tweet last season, and it just made me laugh, is that it was something along the lines of like Tennessee fans, and I can listen, this is the God's truth because I know it because I'm a Tennessee fan and I hear it all the time. Like anytime you go to a game, you hear it all the time. 1998, 1998, 1998. Remember the good old days? Pre-1998 when you had Peyton Manning and Condredge Holloway and Reggie White, and we had some players, and 1998, 1990. That's the only thing you hear about. You know what Nick Saban cares about right now? 2021. Nick Saban has, I lost count, 6, 7 rings. I don't know. He's got a lot of championship rings. You know what Nick Saban's worried about? The 2021 NFL or college football season. Tennessee fans, 1998. Is this rolling around the corner anytime now? That's the issue. They're constantly looking back. They're constantly looking backwards. That's the problem. And so I don't know. I don't get it. You're constantly looking backwards. That is the key to not being successful. Okay? Is when you're looking in the past. What happened back then? Okay? Tennessee fans, you're not going to ever compete with Alabama as long as Nick Saban's there. You're not going to compete with Florida or Georgia or Auburn or LSU or Texas A&M if you keep having unrealistic expectations year after year after year after year. And I get it. I talked to a good friend of mine who's a Tennessee fan, and he was saying, I watched the 1998 National Championship game with your dad. I get the frustration. I do. I've never got, in my lifetime, I've never seen Tennessee as this great hallowed program, which obviously, of course they were. Of course they were. They were the best of the best, but they're not anymore. And you can't just expect that one day it's just going to flip around on a dime, because it's not. It's not. Okay? You need an elite coach, which I don't love the head coaching hire. I like it. I believe it or not, I actually like this hire better than the Jeremy Pruitt hire of 2017. But this is once again a situation where unrealistic expectations for Jeremy Pruitt, who I thought was at best decent coach. He'll win you 8 games, 9 games, but that's a ceiling. He's not competing with Georgia. I don't care who Tennessee recruits. I mean, look at the 2016 teams that Tennessee had under Butch Jones. Alvin Kamara was the second string running back. Derek Barnett was balling. Unbelievable pass rusher, which is with the Eagles now. So I'm sorry, Tennessee, Vol Nation. I'm right there with you. I will, until the day I die, I will bleed orange and white. I love Tennessee, but it's another situation. The fans, they think 1998 is just going to roll right in, right around the corner. And we're going to be right back to college football powerhouse. You got to stop looking in the past. You got to stop looking backwards. Okay? Not just in sports, but in life. You got to be looking to the next. What's up next? What's the next hurdle in life? The next goal I want to set is to looking backwards. Or when you hire a coach, expect him to turn it on a dime. I got news for you. Tennessee's going to win 2 games next year. 3 games. I looked at their schedule. It came out the other day. They're going to win 3 games. Bowling Green, Tennessee Tech, Vanderbilt. That's it. Okay? You're going to get hosed by Florida. You're going to get hosed by Georgia. And God knows what Alabama's going to do to you. Or us, I should say. This is we're all in this together. But it's going to take a long time to rebuild this program. Could have been in better shape with Greg Schiano. We don't like him. Okay? You're paying for the consequences right now. Because we don't like a certain coach. We like Jeremy Pruitt too because he speaks with a Southern accent. Who said a Southern accent, determines how good of a coach you are? Or he's a defensive guy. It's the SEC. As the SEC transitioning to an offensive league. For years, yes, the SEC was the best defensive conference in the world in college football. Alabama had a great defense. Auburn, LSU had some amazing defensive players. Florida had amazing defensive players. Georgia, even Tennessee. Kentucky had Bud Dupree, even. Vanderbilt, the worst school, had Casey Hayward. It is an offensive league now. Look at Alabama. Look at Florida. Look at Georgia at the end of the year once they got their quarterback. And here's rigid Tennessee. Defense, run the ball. And something else that Pruitt would do during games, he'd just transition quarterback to quarterback. Make a mistake, you're benched. Okay, if he makes a mistake, he gets benched back for the original guy. This is a dysfunctional program. And it's going to take years. Not this season, Tennessee fans. It's going to take a long time to get this program back up on its feet. Just that simple. So, there we go. That is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you guys for joining Carving It Up Live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch us tomorrow. Again, this show is on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Catch the show tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You can also follow me. You can see right there on the bottom on Instagram at Carving It Up Podcast, as I say as it's going by. On Twitter at Carving It Up Pod. On Facebook, where this is obviously live streaming, Bryson Carver. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver. Hope everybody has a great day. See y'all tomorrow. God bless y'all. Peace out.